welcome to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I'm not Scott Telford. He is currently away he's getting married tomorrow, which is rather nice. But I'm Rich. I'm joined today by Rach.
Hi.
And Ewan.
Hello.
And yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, the nominees and categories were announced for the Game Awards 2018.
Ta-da!
Standard thing we do every year is we're going to look down all of the categories and look at the nominees and talk about who should win, who will win, and just generally natter about what's going on with the Game Awards.
And who we personally want to win. I think that's what we're all here for.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, if I had a little finger puppet that was Scott Telford, he'd be going, Celeste, for every single one. So,
the fact that Scott isn't here, this is the worst time to get married, sir.
This
Scott
one goes out to you, Scott.
Scott has played literally everything, like pretty much everything on this list he has played.
Yeah, he bleeds in 8-bit.
He does, yeah. I'm intrigued as to what his life is outside of this office. Like, I genuinely can think he's just constantly plugged into something. It's honestly, it's admirable. Like, I wish I could just sit and play absolutely everything, but that's not the case. So, we're going to start things off with, we've got a bunch of categories down. Just trying to find a good one to start with.
The big one, what game of the year, right?
We could do that. We could end with Game of the Year.
Okay. Well.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is why Scott hosts these things.
Hosting. Brought to you by Rich Hudson.
Brought to you by me. Okay, let's kick things off with something relative. Let's go for genres. So, best action game. So, for best action game this year, we've got Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Dead Cells, Destiny 2 Forsaken, Far Cry 5, and Mega Man 11.
Okay.
Far Cry. I was having this conversation yesterday, and I think it's really funny because there have been a lot of good games in 2018. There have been a lot of good games. No one's denying that. But there have been a select few amazing games and a few good games, which is why I'm confused that Far Cry 5 was on there until I realised that, oh yes, maybe we've had a really big kind of cluster of awesomeness towards the end of the year.
Far Cry 5 happened.
Yeah.
I remember actually being kind of excited for Far Cry 5. I've not played any of the Far Cry games, but 5 caught my eye. I think partially because of it, like its political stuff, but I like the idea of that setting, and I like how riled up it got Americans about it.
Yeah, I didn't end up playing it, but the trailer was spectacular.
Yes. I've heard it's okay.
It's
overall.
very okay. It's
very
not
okay.
Yeah, action-wise, I think it kind of tries to subvert the Ubisoft open world formula because they make a big deal of it. Like you break out and then it's like, go climb that tower, and then you climb that one tower and that's the only tower you have to climb in the entire game, which is obviously like taking the piss out of the earlier Far Cry's. But yeah,
I think it's safe to say that Black Ops has got this one.
I think I can agree with that, to be honest, because I mean Black Ops 4 has been a bit of a roller coaster ride for the game, which we'll get to in actually the podcast that's coming out on Friday.
Spoilers.
But I can see what you mean. The only other thing I want to acknowledge in this is Destiny 2 Forsaken, which I'm assuming is the DLC pack.
Yes.
Destiny 2. Yet apparently that means they can release that as like essentially a new game to be re-awarded.
It did change up a lot about the base game, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those constantly like evolving games. I guess it's the thing with one thing that I can't wrap my head around, but you have like a platform now, and then like different developers will build on that. So I know Destiny has a really strong fandom, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's in contention because but like you said, Black Ops 4, it seems like a return to form for the franchise.
Yeah, I feel like it's got that in the bag. Yeah. So, best action adventure game: Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, Marvel's Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh well, it's got to be God of War, hasn't it?
I feel like it's quite easy to like scratch off Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Not that they're not good games.
They're not good games at all, but when you're up against things like God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead, it's quite a hard category.
Red Dead.
Yeah, and like not to like even just spoil what I think of like the game of the. I think those three are the standout releases of the year.
Absolutely.
And in terms of action adventure, I think God of War, actually, no, I probably would agree with you on that because there's a lot of, I loved exploring God of War's world. Like you go through all the 9 realms and it really loves Norse mythology. And Red Dead, obviously, Rockstar have a massive kind of recreation of the Old West, and Spidey has that stunning recreation of New York. But I think God of War probably may clinch that one.
I think the thing about it is when you put those three together, and we'll get to this with Game of the Year as well, but like you've got those three. Spider-Man had the biggest reach.
Yes.
To a bigger audience. God of War was like technical wise, I think like Red Dead and God of War are really high up there, but obviously God of War had a smaller reach compared to Spider-Man, but Red Dead has had that same kind of reach. So It's an interesting one to get to, but for that, I'm not entirely sure which would take it, but I do agree that God of War might win that one over Red Dead. So I think Red Dead might be set for bigger things, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
just to breeze through a couple. So, best family game. So, Mario Tennis Aces, Nintendo Labo, Overcooked 2, Starlink Battle for Atlas, and Super Mario Party.
It's got to be Labo, surely.
Well, Labo was like hugely innovational, I think.
It's a lot. It's very cool. It's a lot of fun.
Did it deliver though? Did you guys play it? I played it briefly.
No,
Yeah,
I watched a lot of videos. I watched John Carpenter do the Halloween theme while playing
he
the
hated
Labo.
it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He absolutely hated it.
It was so good, but I still feel like after my 5 minutes of playing it that it's a play for 5 minutes game.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think best family game.
Hats off to Nintendo for incorporating it into various things. Like you can use it in Mario Kart as well, which I think is very clever, but it's like, oh, we can do this with it, but then when you've done that, you think
I would
still
just play
there's
with my
not much
controller.
else to do with it.
Was
So-
Starlink the Ubisoft,
Yes.
the one that I've heard very controversial things about?
Oh, right.
It was the ships you build and you stick them on your controller.
Yes, and
It's
how
like-
the
it's
physical
like
edition was a bit.
It's like a Skylanders kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
so
the-
Scott was talking about this.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the if your ship dies, that's it. You have to like pay £25 for another ship. Like another
Essentially,
life.
in order
It's
to
like,
go
whoa.
in order to go into a mission to play, and if you die, you have to go back to a checkpoint. You need a second ship to take on from the checkpoint. So if
But
you only bought the base edition and
You
got
could just
one
get
ship,
good.
you could do.
Could just
if
get
you've
good.
bought, if you've only bought the base edition and you have one ship to play with, which you do off the bat, then you essentially only get one life, and if you fail something, you have no
It's
checkpoints.
interesting because Toys to Life I thought was going to be the next big thing. Like when Disney Infinity,
it was.
yeah,
It really was,
exactly
yeah.
right. And I loved
Lego Dimensions, Skylanders,
that's-
Disney Infinity, all massively popular.
Yeah.
This turned up, and when Scott was ecstatic about it.
Yes.
And
I think it
especially for
looks
the
great,
Star
yeah.
Fox one.
Yeah.
When I remember how deflated he was when he came in, and he was like, "This is how it works. This is what it is." And it's like, it seems like they've taken this amazing, like you said, Toys to Life thing, and they've turned it into this weird monetization thing that feels really predatory, and it's a shame.
It probably says something that if Lego and Disney can't sustain that format, what
Who
hope
can?
does Ubisoft
Ubisoft
have? And it's a shame because I really wanted to check out like Lego. It was Lego Dimensions, yeah.
Lego
Yes, Lego
Dimensions is
Dimensions.
And like you can
so
still
good.
find all those really cute Disney Infinity figures like on bargain shelves and game and stuff. So it's actually quite sad. And if that's its lasting, last hurrah, last swing at the old, I don't know, swing at something.
A wallet.
That'll be
What
a bit
about
sad.
winners then? Who do we think's winning it? I think Overcooked.
Overcooked 2, I think
Yeah,
is
it's
on it for me.
lovely.
Mario Tennis Aces, the demo was all right, but it wasn't that interesting. I was really excited for it, but it just didn't really land. with
Yeah,
me.
Overcooked is just genius.
But yeah, I think
like-
Overcooked 2 is probably nabbed this one. Multiplayer game. So Black Ops 4, Destiny 2, Fortnite, Monster Hunter
Oh,
World,
wow.
and Sea of Thieves.
Oh, as much as I'd love Monster Hunter World to win it, what a game, by the way. It's got to be Fortnite, isn't it?
It's most likely going to be Fortnite
It's got to be Fortnite.
because it is just out of those 5, it is the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
So,
going to
that's
ruin
most likely
anyone
what it's
else's
gonna-
happiness
most
by
likely what
talking
it's
about
gonna
it.
go
Yeah.
Fair enough, absolutely. You
yeah.
can disagree. When
Yeah,
So-
that's totally. I just don't want to I'm starting a whole big thing now, but
There's not really much to say, is there? It's
one of the things I
massive.
just don't understand.
It is very good.
Yeah.
So many people play it. They are constantly supporting it. So
So, just the last sort of relatively small category. I say small, it's not small, but the best eSports game, because obviously eSports is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there is an eSports game category here. So on here we've got Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Dota 2, Fortnite, League of Legends, and Overwatch.
I'm annoyed that Rainbow Six Siege isn't on there actually.
Yeah.
but when-
Because it's really weird because I don't watch that much esports, but I do actually quite like the Rainbow Six Invitational tournament because there's some really interesting kind of tactics that evolve from that.
Yeah.
The closest one on there I would say is Overwatch.
I
but
was going to say between Dota and League
Yeah.
of Legends.
I mean,
Yeah,
just looking at this, there's no Rocket League either. RLCS,
will be very
RLCS is actually fantastic. I've watched quite a lot of RLCS and it's really good fun. The championship series for Rocket League. But the one thing I want to talk about with the esports one is there's no PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Well, it's not
Now-
really an
So this year was the first time that PUBG Corp and Bluehole, I say Bluehole, it's PUBG Corp now, went all out, went, right, we're doing a big tournament. So they did the PUBG Global Invitational, PGI, out in Berlin. Myself and Jules and our main man Heppel got to go there and see the event and see the first-person tournament, and it was amazing. It was genuinely brilliant. It breathed so much more life into a game that I don't play so much anymore because it does get boring. But the fact that it's been completely ignored here is interesting. But speaking of Osley, who you've mentioned, who's one of our editors on the gaming channel, hello Osley, if you're watching or listening.
Or editing.
He is a big eSports guy. He knows his eSports stuff, and he was just saying to me before we came in to record this that Fortnite hasn't really got a proper eSports scene. It doesn't have open tournaments. Essentially, what their equivalent of their big eSports thing is getting a bunch of streamers in to play some games, and that's kind of it.
I guess because it's very. I'm going to use the word mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But the fact it's more the fact that it's not an open tournament. What they do doesn't feel like an actual tournament for people. It's more just let's get the popular people in to play rather than the people who are genuinely skilled. Not to say that the people who are popular are bad at the game, but just it doesn't feel like a proper esports tournament compared to what we've seen before. So the fact that Fortnite's on here for him is a bit of a contentious one. And I don't know much about the esports scene overall, but you'll have to let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised
if that is actually the case with Fortnite. But
if
I
Fortnite
feel like,
wins over Dota,
I mean,
or League of Legends, I'll be surprised.
The International is probably the biggest esports event there is,
or even CS:GO,
or CS:GO as well. Yeah. But I think personally, it's going to go to either Dota 2 or it would go to Fortnite. To be honest, there's a big chance it will do purely popularity wise.
It's community. What do you call it? Where it's like it's normal community driven.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
There you
so
go.
it could go to Fortnite, but I think it should go to Dota 2 personally.
Cool.
But the question I have for you two, when it comes to Fortnite, do you think Fortnite will still be on these awards? On being nominated for this stuff this time next year, do you think it will still be there?
I think it's got some life in it, yeah. As much as I never play it, I admire it. Because when did it first come out? I want to say it was 16? It was in beta. It was in beta for ages.
I think it was late 2017 I think it was.
Was it 17?
Yeah, because I remember it being...
Feels like longer.
It was a couple of months after, about 5-6 months after PUBG.
It feels like longer. It just has so much support, and honestly, I honestly think it's in here for a long haul.
Yeah. Okay, so best independent game. So Celeste, Dead Cells, Into the Breach, Return of the Obra Dinn, and The Messenger.
I'll just embody Scott for a second
and
again.
say Celeste.
Celeste.
Yeah. I mean, Celeste has done very well this year. It's made some big waves. Speaking of big waves, beautiful. It is also nominated for Game of the Year, which is a big deal, especially when you look at what it's up against.
For an indie game as well, but that's incredible.
For an indie game, it's done very, very well. Dead Cells looks amazing. It's reviewed very, very well. Into the Breach and The Messenger, don't really know what they are, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Return of the Obra Dinn is an interesting one. Have you heard of this, Ewan?
No, I have not.
So, have you heard of a game called Papers, Please?
Yes, I have.
Which is astonishing.
Yes.
It's incredible. So the guy that made Papers, Please has made this new game called Return of the Obra Dinn. And it's basically a murder mystery on a ship. And you can walk around in first person.
I am intrigued.
And you have a notebook and you fill it in and stuff like that. I've not played it myself. My partner has.
Poirot?
And she's genuinely been sat there playing it with her notebook open.
But are you Poirot, though?
No, you're not.
But are you?
She's been playing it with a notebook open, she's taking notes while she's doing this. It's a proper big murder mystery game, and apparently it is astonishing. It's gorgeous as well because it's everything's rendered in 3D, but it's only in 2 colors. It's like Game Boy camera 3D. Looks really quite cool.
Art direction.
When you look at it, you think, yeah, this is very sort of. I can see this being an evolution of the art style of Papers, Please. But that's what's up for best independent game. But I think, as you said, channeling Scott.
Satisfy the spirit of Scott, say Celeste.
He's not dead, Ewan.
No, he's dead.
Dead. Celeste.
Yeah.
I think Celeste is going to go to. So here we go. Best performance.
Oh, I like this one.
So last year we had some good...
I know who you want to win it.
Last year it was a really, really good category, which obviously... I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but she's the woman who was in... Yes.
Well deserved last year,
The video editor who became a motion capture voice actress for this game and won awards for it, I think is amazing.
Really cool.
But this year, it's quite interesting. So we've got Brian Deckard, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, as Connor from Detroit Become Human.
Oof.
We've got Christopher Judge as Kratos in God of War.
Good pick.
I do apologise for the absolute butchering of this name, but Melisanthe Mahut as Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Roger Clark as Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. And Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker / Spider-Man in Marvel's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
It's
much like last year. It's a really good section.
I think both, because when I came out and did Spider-Man, I did the review. I think I said in my review that I thought Yuri's performance as Spider-Man will go down. It's like one of the all-time great.
Incredible.
Because the effort they went to record both takes of him swinging through the city and then when he's like stationary and stuff. But particularly as that game draws to a close, he really takes it up a notch.
Wow,
it's really. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just saying.
Still not finished it, guys.
Well,
I'm sorry.
there we go.
I do agree with you. And there is a point where things really start to ramp up in the story, and he nails it.
There's a side to Peter Parker that we don't really see that often, and full credit to Insomniac for looking to depict him kind of as a young adult. I'm sure we can all relate to that in our own way.
Being young adults.
Exactly. But the way he embodies that, and the whole story is about him reconciling that with his past and trying to be an adult while also having his responsibilities as being Spider-Man. It's all really fascinating. So not only is he doing a good Spider-Man, he's doing a completely new kind of Spider-Man that we haven't really seen outside of the comics. This kind of adult. It's very interesting. I would personally say Yuri should get this.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Even though I think Arthur Morgan is one of the best video game protagonists of the century.
But
is that based on purely his character or the actual performance that what's his name?
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I mean,
Roger Clark.
I think Clark's performance he's not. I'm not going to say stoic because Morgan, he's a mixture of things, and obviously the way in which you play him in Red Dead, you can go down the honourable path or the dishonourable path, and that plays into how you'll ultimately come to see Arthur Morgan as a character. So I'm actually curious to see if that impacts where he'll come in this, because everyone is going to have a varying perspective of this character.
Yeah.
I think he does both sides very well, but you are right. I would say potentially the material he had to work with certainly elevated the performance, and even though he has the better voice, Peter Parker is.
I personally think that Yuri absolutely deserves
I think Dad is a good contender as well. Dad is a very good contender. I thought he was perfect.
He was brilliant. Did they replace? I didn't realise that he didn't voice Kratos in the original trilogy, did he?
Is it a new Kratos?
Yeah, I think it was.
New Dad.
I can't remember.
That's interesting. Yeah. But I think we'd say, would you agree about Peter Parker, about Yuri? Or would you think it should go to Kratos?
I think I would. For me personally, it's between Spidey and Kratos, but I would give it to Spidey.
Cool.
Well, it's a discussion. You have to let us know in the comments who you think should get this award. Best score / music. So Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Ni no Kuni 2, Octopath Traveler, or Red Dead 2.
You gotta give some love to Ni no Kuni 2. It came out, start of the year? It was like April or something.
Yes.
I almost forgot it came out because I've barely played it, but it is gorgeous and the music is very good. So credit there, but it just... Will it get a look in? Yeah,
that's the interesting thing for me as well, because I was going to, initially when I heard this question, I was going to say Red Dead hands down, but there is the delineation there between the score that was composed to the game and the soundtrack, because they actually utilise some country music in there. You have stuff from like Willie Nelson. Josh Homme has a song in there as well. And while the actual old Western music is very good, it's very Morricone-esque. I think God of War with its deep kind of bassy, that you remember seeing the first advert for that and like that deep kind of
it's all about
noise.
The atmosphere.
Sorry for everyone at home. That kind of noise is really, really, it's an iconic score. It's synonymous with the game, whereas with Red Dead you could probably take that music and apply it to any old Western.
It's very true. What about Spider-Man?
Beautiful score as well.
Yeah,
but
it reminds me very much of the Raimi trilogy, which I absolutely love. But I think the thing about the Spider-Man one is it's just sort of there to accompany it.
A little forgettable, I'm gonna say.
It's like I love it when it starts to kick in when you're swinging around, but it's the same.
It's not, again, that's not a criticism of the. I think the composition is very nice, but it is very derivative of the superhero genre.
The game strengths are elsewhere.
Yes.
So would you say that God of War probably nails this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Best score.
I'm happy
music.
with that.
Yep. Best art direction. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, Octopath Traveler, Red Dead 2, and Return of the Obra Dinn.
Why don't you take this one, Rich?
Well, again, Odyssey.
Beautiful looking game,
absolutely. God of War, again, also absolutely gorgeous. Red Dead 2, absolutely gorgeous. But I think in terms of art direction, because I want to say Cuphead won it last year.
It did win it last year.
It did win it last
Cuphead,
year. It's the games that do something different that seems to really tick these boxes.
Know where you're going with this, and I completely agree.
For me, it's going to be between Octopath and Return of the Obra Dinn. But because Return of the Obra Dinn is a very niche game. As I explained, it's like a murder mystery. It requires a lot of attention. This isn't a game you can just sit back and just play. You have to really put your head in there. And just for the visuals of Octopath Traveler, I've not played it myself, but it's stunning.
Yeah.
So I feel like Octopath might nab this.
I would like it to win, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I think obviously with like Red Dead, it's a beautiful looking game. There's no denying. The same goes for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the variety of environments they have on display in those games is nothing short of stunning. But in terms of having a singular kind of vision for how you want your game to look, I think you're probably nailed on with those two picks.
The fact that Cuphead won it last year kind of points this award in that direction.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like I love a hyper realistic looking game, which is brilliant. But for me, what wins it is something a bit different.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
So yeah, we're probably going to be Octopath Traveler for best art direction, best narrative.
I am HO.
Best narrative: Detroit Become Human, God of War, Life is Strange 2, Marvel's Spider-Man, or Red Dead Redemption 2.
Easy. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Easy. The narrative, it's so good.
I really, really bought into the narrative of Spider-Man. I loved it.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me.
It is another hard one.
I think I'm gonna say Red Dead because even though, again, like kind of going back to that trio of Spidey, God of War, and Red Dead. God of War has a fantastic kind of statement about the history of it. The way it reappraises that franchise's own history is nothing short of genius. And then you have Spidey, which is trying something totally new with the character, and then you have Red Dead, which is almost like an anti-West in the way it kind of reconciles like the old West with like the coming of the modern age, and it makes you it kind of makes you reappraise those characters that you thought about originally. And I'm going to say, based on impact and the way I got invested with and the way Red Dead tells its story for that matter, because not a lot of it is conveyed through cutscenes. You have to seek the story out for yourself by finding people in your camp. And by the time I was finished with that game, I was absolutely blown away by how much I cared about everyone in that story.
Oh, you're right.
And I think Rockstar deserve massive praise for that, because any other open world game, they could have just been fodder for like just fetch quests and side stuff. So I'm going to say that Red Dead not only revolutionized the way open world games tell stories, I think it definitely the narrative of the year for me.
You've won me over, absolutely.
I mean, so for like the meat of a storyline, you've got Red Dead with all this stuff. But for me personally, like I love the Spider-Man one as well.
I know.
It's not obviously it's not as like weighty as the Red Dead one. The Red Dead, I think the Red Dead narrative ticks all the boxes in one way, whereas Spidey ticks them in another. It's a very tightly knit, like I don't want to say thin, but it's a very focused storyline. And how the whole of Spider-Man worked between those three acts and the development of a particular character throughout towards the end of the game. It's like this, I was just completely blown away by how a game, not to say that this game wouldn't have that, but just the fact that there was such an amazing narrative within this kind of game. I loved it. So maybe it's because like with Red Dead, I'm loving what I've been playing, but I've not finished it. I've barely scratched, like literally barely scratched the surface right now. Yeah. But Spider-Man again, I think is amazing as well. But I think for this one, similar to some other ones as well, it's going to be tough between Red Dead, Spidey, and God of War. It's going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to make some people happy, make some people sad based on which one wins. But it's going to be a tough decision either way.
The whole show is going to be God of War, really, Spider-Man, or Red Dead Redemption 2.
So, best game direction: A Way Out, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead 2. Personally, I think this is going to be Red Dead 2.
Oh, I was going to potentially say A Way Out.
I feel like A Way Out needs some love.
It does.
Is it better than Red Dead?
No,
I think direction is like how much effort you put into the entire game as a whole, and I think the amount that Red Dead has to offer, the amount of boxes that Red Dead ticks,
it's
true. But again, to a similar degree, what I was going to say with that narrative point, I think A Way Out tells its story in a very unique way, and
it was brilliant.
And you know, say what you will about like couch co-op and stuff, but when it came back, I thought that people may have considered that. People in the industry, for that matter, would have considered that to be a risk, because we've not really seen couch co-op in a narrative sense for so long.
Remember when it was first announced and we were a bit like, what's this?
The fact that there are some games out there that don't have split screen in there, even just for multiplayer, people get very riled up about. But you're right, you know, bringing it back for something that isn't just bog standard multiplayer could be a big risk.
Yeah. So my personal pick would be A Way Out, and I think the fact that Red Dead has been in so many other nominations, potentially, you know.
Let's share the love.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think A Way Out definitely does deserve some representation at the end of the year. So I'm going to say that one.
That's fair enough. So best ongoing game, the penultimate one we're going to talk about today: Destiny 2, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, Overwatch, or Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh,
I wonder which one you were going to go for.
Did you say anything after Fortnite?
Yeah, I'm very happy that Siege has gotten a look in there because I'm going to be controversial and say this wasn't the best year for the game. There were certainly some issues with it, I thought. Some of the updates weren't particularly as meaty as people would have potentially liked them to be.
Yeah.
But I think that game has a really strong platform, and in terms of bucking the trend of, when a game gets released, that's considered the pinnacle of its popularity, and then Siege has completely flipped that on its head because it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And again, I think probably, I know Overwatch is fantastic with this. I love the Overwatch community and I love what they do with all of that, but Siege, the way it just keeps, it's the little engine that could. I mean, I'm saying that about like a multi-million dollar video game franchise.
It is a title that when you look at it in this ecosystem, it could have arrived and just done nothing.
Yes.
But it's become such a massive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can we repeat the title of the section though? What is the award for?
Best ongoing game.
Ongoing game. So I mean, Siege does fit that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm going to say.
But again, I think it could be a case that Fortnite turns up and steals it.
Oh, it's definitely going to be Fortnite. Don't get me wrong. They're winning it. But
gotta get those new dances in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that it's not deserved. Like I did mention before, they've been constantly sort of innovating with Fortnite, and it is a massive game.
Mm-hmm.
No Man's Sky kind of fell off the radar. It came back and then sort
No
of...
Man's Sky?
It sort of came back and they did a big update and everyone was like, this is really good.
No Man's Sky might be having... I know that was massive when it came out, like, obviously for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But again, don't rule No Man's Sky out. That's all I'm
it's
gonna
very
say.
true. But again, Destiny 2, like the stuff it's up against,
yes,
it's kind of a given.
Yeah.
It's going to be mainly between Fortnite and Siege, Overwatch potentially, but I think No Man's Sky and Destiny 2 aren't really going to get a footing anywhere, which is, kind of a shame for the fans of those games. But here we go, the big one, Game of the Year. So, nominated this year is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man,
No way.
Monster Hunter War, Monster Hunter World, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Celeste. So you've got all these big games, and then there is Celeste just
I'm
plonked
glad
at the
Celeste
end.
is in
lovely.
there. Unfortunately, she's no winning.
No.
She's not.
Going home alone.
I mean, to be honest, to be put into that category
That
is an
lovely.
achievement in itself.
Exactly.
For an indie game. That is mental.
Exactly.
Let's face it. I mean, Scott was ecstatic. Again, we keep talking about Scott, but he adores Celeste. And if Celeste walked away with it up against those things, it would be the biggest twist in video game history, let alone whatever other video game twist I can pull out of my head. But it would be an incredible achievement for the Celeste team.
Look at What Remains of Edith Finch last year.
Yes.
I know that wasn't the Video Game Awards, but I mean, you can be...
Because it did walk away with one of them, didn't it?
You can be
Was it a
surprised.
golden joystick or something?
I can't remember Josh Brown's
It
man
won-
for Edith Finch. He loves that
won
game.
something,
It won a
didn't
Game
it?
of the Year award.
Yeah. And it did really throw people, but it shows that this could happen. But again, I think Odyssey, maybe not. Monster Hunter World, it was popular, but I think, again, similar to what I've said before about there being a big draw for these games, it's not as big. But again, it's going to be between God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead 2. And in reality, from a perspective of...
It's got to be Red Dead.
Yeah.
From the perspective of like the industry looking at it, God of War ticked so many boxes well.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Red Dead and Spider-Man had such a bigger audience to tap into. Like, God of War looks amazing, and I do want to play it, but it didn't get me invested before release compared to something like Spider-Man or something like Red Dead. I mean, when Spider-Man came out, Sony was straight away saying, okay, this is already completely obliterated God of War. And yet, when you look back to when was it, like March or April, that was huge at the time. So
the thing is, though, does that not sort of add a point to God of War? Because for me personally, like I was like, oh, great, God of War. I've never played the other ones. But then when it came out, and it sort of had that amount of impact and everyone was talking about it, I was like, wow, okay, this must be good. Because it started off with that sort of smaller, sort of almost cult, and then caused someone like me who's never played the other ones to want to buy it.
That's the exact same position, because I was never particularly interested in the OG God of War games. But again, I think the way the industry has been a very self-reflective look this year, I think, on the way, we've had talk about, like, crunch has been like in the headlines a lot, and we're talking a lot about the way we kind of consume games and the way what games have to say. I think God of War has a very salient point, and I'm again, I could potentially see that winning for that reason, because the way it contributes to the gaming industry in a certain way. I think Red Dead definitely deserves it on like in terms of what it achieves.
Yes, absolutely.
This is hard.
It's very difficult, but I would not be upset if God of War won.
Yeah.
To be honest, anyone wins.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if it's between those three, I think if Spider-Man won it, it would be a bit of a shock, because as much as I think all three of them could equally get it, I think Spider-Man out of the three is probably the least likely. It's going to go to Red Dead 2 or God of War. I think we'll have to wait and see, I think. But either way, I think we can narrow down it's going to be one of those three.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know about which one you think should be Game of the Year. You think is Game of the Year. Could it be Celeste? Do you think Celeste should walk away with Game of the Year?
I love an underdog.
Yeah, it'll be an amazing content day for when the Game Awards actually are, which I should have written down, but I don't actually have written down.
It's the 6th of December, I'm
6th
pretty
of December.
Our saviour, our hero, Rage.
I think so. I mean,
I'm sure there'll be more podcasts.
I've got terrible memory.
Results
Terrible memory.
The Game Awards. But thank you very much for watching. If you're on YouTube, thank you very much for listening. If you are on any kind of podcast service, did you forget we were recording a podcast? Rich?
Wait, what? We're being filmed? Hello.
What's that camera doing?
But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for tuning into the What Culture Gaming Podcast. I have been your host, not Scott Telford, but Rich Hudson, joined by Rach.
Also not Scott Telford.
And Ewan.
Who was always trying to be Scott Telford.
Thank you very much for listening and or watching. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Cheerio.